Okay, so this is the repository for the Level 2 reading paper, the practice papers you can have a go at, and you'll notice there's quite a few here we've got. What I'm going to do before we start, and before you start accessing practice papers and having a go at them and giving them back to me to mark, is I'm going to talk you through a borderline pass for this exam. So this is a student that's basically scraped through on the skin of their teeth. So they've made quite a few mistakes that we're going to look at. And these are the kinds of mistakes that crop up again and again on the Level 2 reading paper. So before you start, I'd like you to download, or at least make sure you've got downloaded, the mobile phones sample assessment mark scheme, question paper, and the board source documents and borderline pass document, because that's what we're going to be working on today. So let's have a quick look. Now, first question they've got right, and that's one of those identify what a particular word or phrase means. So they've gone with the best shot they have, and they've got 1 mark for that. So that's fine. So, what mistake have they made with this? Well, they've only got 1 mark out of a potential 4 here. So let's have a quick look, see what mistake they've made. Well, firstly, they've identified the essential skill. So that's what they've got a mark for. And I've seen students lose a lot of marks in this for other reasons as well, which I'll go into in a bit. And the important thing to remember here is it's really vital to read the question and understand what the question is asking you to do. So that first sentence should tell you that you need to identify the essential skill the sales team needs to provide fantastic customer service. You need to do that. If a student hadn't done that, they would get no marks. Even if they got everything else right, they would get no marks. Because that's the first and most important part of this question. It then asks you to provide 3 separate quotations from the text to justify your answer. So you can see here they haven't got any marks because they haven't provided quotations. They've literally just listed things. What they needed to have done is they needed to have gone to the source documents like this, looked through, and they needed to have found a quote that backs this up. So, for example, they could have quoted that. Our customers want their phone to suit their lifestyle, and our job is to match the handset to the individual. That would have been a quote. If they'd have quoted all of that, they'd have got an extra mark. And as the examiners put here as well, the candidates only supplied 2 pieces of supporting evidence, and they needed 3 pieces, really, because you get 1 mark for identifying the correct skill, and then 3 marks for that supporting evidence. And it's important you do that. Look at the marks you're being given and work out what you were supposed to be providing here. So they've done fine here. They've gotten their 4 marks for this, and the examiner themselves have actually criticised the student for this a little bit. They've said that actually this bit here and this bit here they haven't got any marks for, and they didn't need to put it. Now technically, yeah, the examiner's right. The student didn't need to provide 2 quotes to back up, say, formal writing or questions. However, if you're a little bit unsure as to whether your evidence is actually backing up what you're saying, there's nothing wrong with jotting down another piece of evidence. They're not going to mark you down for it, as you can see here. So I would go with the student in this case. There's nothing wrong they've done here, and as you can see, they've got the 4 marks anyway, so does it matter? Right. This question here, this is another mistake that students make, and again, this is through not reading the question thoroughly. So, what the student's done here is they've identified 4 different layout features, but they haven't described how the authors used them. They've described how the heading works, they've described how the different fonts work, but they haven't described how the links work or the subheadings work. So if the student added a bit of a description about links, like to link the reader to another part of the website, or subheadings to tell the reader what's coming next, or what's in the paragraph below the subheadings, they'd have gotten the full 4 marks for this. So again, this is about reading the question. And again, they've done pretty well here. Again, this is where a student has simply missed the question really. It specifically says give 4 opinions presented as facts from document 3, and it's worth 4 marks. You need to be listing 4 things. And again, they've identified the purpose of this document, but they've provided no supporting evidence. So again, they've got the first part of the question done fine, but they're not doing the next part. So it's important you read the full question and do what the question is asking you to do. If it's asking you to provide supporting evidence, provide that supporting evidence. If it's asking you to describe how a language feature or a layout feature works, you need to be describing how that layout or language feature works, not just naming it. Okay, and again, this is where the student has not been specific enough. The slim sleek handset comment could, in this instance, as you'll see when you read through the source documents, it applies to any of the handsets, and it doesn't really specifically apply to the camera either. It's positive qualities of the camera we're looking at. And again, if you're a bit stuck on this, the summarizing questions, have another look through the videos and talk to your tutor for a bit of extra work on that. And here they've simply not the visit the Westview store. That doesn't actually come up in the text at all. You've got to be taking your information from the text, especially if it says according to Joanna Grange. What they mean there is according to the text. So take your information from the text. And again, according to documents 2 and 3, how can a customer find out more about the Galactica 1? Well, phone, what does that mean? They've been too brief there. They need to expand on that. And again, they needed to have come up with a bit of extra information. Now, the examiner has written this. Okay, so it's a borderline answer. The candidate could have achieved further marks through careful reading of the questions to ascertain exactly what is required, both in terms of content of the answers and number of responses. And I agree with that. Basically, the candidate here, the student here, needed to have read the questions more thoroughly, so they understood what the question was asking them to do. And they also needed to look at the number of marks available as well, so they know how much they have to put down. So there we go. Have a go at some of the practice papers, email them to your tutor, and we'll go on from there.